Hey everyone, it's Asha. It's been a minute since I've been back on YouTube, but I'm definitely going to try to be posting more now that I have a bit more free time from school. So for those of you that don't know me and my channel, I basically just finished school. I finished my undergrad and I finished my master's recently, and this channel is kind of a hub for different types of advice related to school, related to my life working in business, where I worked at a big four accounting firm in the past and now I've started a new company. But essentially, this is kind of a page for a lot of people who are going into school, who are going into the career world and career space and trying to, find some advice and find other people's experiences and leverage those to do better. So that's kind of a gist of my channel. And today I kind of wanted to make this video about the Masters of Accounting that I recently did. So I went to the University of Waterloo for the accounting and finance program. And after that, I pursued my Master's of Accounting degree. And it was honestly a very, very challenging process, I'm not gonna lie. At least for me, it was. And it was very, very rewarding as well, though. So I kind of wanted to talk about what that program looks like, as well as the process of getting through the program successfully, since I was able to make it on honor roll. And I found out recently that only 57 students of about over 300 students actually made honor roll. So I was thinking that this could be a great video to give some study tips for students who are going through that program soon, since it runs pretty much every January. And so I thought this could be a really good opportunity to kind of give some advice on things that I learned while I was in the Masters of Accounting program. So to start, the actual program itself, each semester you take 4 courses, and the first semester is by far the hardest because that is the year where you're taking your financial reporting course, you're taking your management accounting, and then you take your 2 core elective courses. So for me, I took audit and tax, but I know for a lot of other people, they chose finance or performance management. But I definitely think that that was the hardest semester and a huge learning curve where a lot of students were constantly working on cases and constantly studying, and there wasn't much time for anything else, at least in my life, there wasn't. So I'll talk about the first course that I think is the most challenging, and I think majority of people came to the consensus that this was the most challenging, and this was financial reporting. So first, I'll tell you guys a little bit about what the financial reporting course in general entails. Essentially, this course is to help you prep for day 2 and day 3 of the CFE, which is the CPA exam. And this is because financial reporting is one of the things that you have to be competent in, or it's management accounting. But for people who are in audit, which I was at the time, FR, you do have to be competent in to get your public accounting license in order to be a partner in the future, to sign off on different documents. And so if that is important for you to have, FR is a really important course that you have to be really good at. And it is very hard to get your technical strong in that course if you don't practice a lot and if you don't study a lot for it. And so essentially this course is you reading the CPA handbook, which has both ASPE and IFRS standards, as well as NPO standards, which are pretty much the only 3 that you really are going to see in that course, and the 3 that I believe you really get tested on the CFE, which is the CPA exam. But essentially you use that. You have to have weekly readings about the different standards that you're given in that CPA handbook. And by standards, that just means like one standard will be about inventory, so you're going to read IFRS and ASPE. Another is going to be about plant, property, and equipment. You're going to have to read IFRS and ASPE. Another one could be about financial instruments. You have to read both again, like I said. So that's what I mean when I say you read different standards. And then you have to be able to leverage whatever you read that week into a case setting. So now you're going to be given a case that's maybe about 3 to 5 pages. And these are usually cases that were previously used on the UFE before CPA changed it to the CFE. So in first semester, they give you only UFE cases to practice with. And so when you're practicing with those cases are going to have issues that come up related to PPD, related to inventory, related to financial instruments, the stuff that you would have read that week. And then that all comes back and you're able to actually apply that in a case setting. So it is very, very difficult in the beginning. And trust me, you guys aren't alone if any of you are watching this and you're thinking you have no idea what the heck is going on, because trust me, I would go into majority of the classes in the beginning of the semester not knowing what was going on. And everyone would just tell me to keep trusting the process. And I'm not gonna lie, yeah, that's part of it, but part of it is just you got to work really hard, and you do have to just study. You have to be reading the stuff. You have to actively be asking questions. If you don't know something, don't be discouraged and don't feel like you're stupid, because I guarantee so many people did not know things like I did. I didn't know majority of things, and I'm sure I still don't know things even after I've done the Master's of Accounting and I've graduated. But I'm just saying it is going to be difficult, and just make sure you work hard. And there is a difference between working hard and working smart. And I will tell you now, I did not work smart in the beginning when I was taking that course. So I, in my undergrad, was somebody who didn't take notes. I just went to class, I listened to the profs, maybe took notes in class, and I didn't really use the textbooks much. I would use whatever the prof would teach us, use the PowerPoints they gave us, do the exams, and I did well. And so my structured studying, though, that wasn't as helpful when it came to masters, because there's less of a lecture-based learning. It's a lot more just active participation on cases you write, and then you put your hand up to let them know what you got, the answers, and why you got there. And it's just a whole different place where I went from studying from hearing what professors were saying to now I had to study through reading content and just knowing it and going to class and talking myself. Like, I had to talk about what I learned, which was a whole new process. And I asked so many people for advice on how to write notes and how to do things, because I didn't know how to do that. And I didn't do that in undergrad, so I struggled a lot. I'm not going to lie, in the beginning, I didn't know what to do. And so I started by working hard and not working smart. I started by trying to write notes on the handbooks, and eventually it just became that I wrote my own handbook. Like, I was writing notes on all of these different standards, all these different lines that I didn't need to do, because it's already written there for you. And you have access to this handbook on an exam and on the CFE exam. So you don't need to memorize it all. You don't need to make super strong notes. And one of our professors even said, like, it's literally a waste of time if you're making notes, because you have access to this handbook at all times. So that's when I stopped writing my notes. I just started reading summaries online, and I also started reading the actual standards, and that honestly helped me so much. But along with that, I made sure that after I read it and I thought I had an understanding of the standard itself, I would try to tackle the case that we have for that week. So each case is given a different time constraint. So some of the cases can be between 90 minutes or between 60 and 90 minutes, I believe. And so I would double that time in the beginning, because in the beginning, you're going to need more time. You're not going to be able to write those cases in that amount of time that's allocated yet. So give yourself the time that it says, and times that by 2, and then try to actually tackle it yourself. Try to go into that handbook, try to pull out stuff that you think applies, and go from there, and then check your work. And I kid you not, the first few times I did this, pretty much every single thing I had was very wrong, or if I got it right, I spent way more time than I needed to. And in the beginning, that's okay to do for the first few cases, and then try to bring down the time a bit more and more until the professors eventually do tell you at a certain point, like, okay, at this point in the year now, you guys should be able to do it with the time limit that's given. And so that is honestly my biggest piece of advice. Don't make notes, just read the summaries online, then go and read the actual handbook standard. Because I found reading summaries first was a lot easier, because I high level was like, okay, I know what to expect when I go into the standard. And the standard is written by lawyers, so the way they write it is just sometimes unnecessarily long or unnecessarily confusing. But if you read that summary online before, and I can put some links in the bio below of some summaries that I used at the time while I was in my master's, and hopefully that's helpful for you guys. But yeah, so try to read those summaries, then go into the handbook, read those standards. If there's any specific lines or things that you don't understand, jot that down, bring that to office hours, and use those office hours. They will be super helpful and super important for you to use when you have questions. I didn't go too often, but the times that I did go, they were super helpful. And I even got to hear questions that other students had that I didn't even, like, they were good questions. I didn't even think to ask it because I didn't think the same way they were. So when they asked that, I got to benefit as well, because I got to hear what people were asking. So that would be my biggest piece of advice in terms of reading the standards. And then make sure you're doing all the cases yourself. I know for some people this worked, where they were able to not write the case, and they just looked at, like, they read the case, thought about the outline, and then of like how they were going to tackle it, what standards they were going to use, what they were going to do, and then they would just read the answers. And I know for those people that actually did work. However, for me and a lot of other people, I know that the best way was to actually practice it. I need to actually type and figure out what my mistake is. So I need to actually write the case myself, do all the work myself for the X amount of time that I allocated for myself, and then review the answer. because that way I can actually see what I was doing was wrong. And when you know that you actually did something wrong, you actively remember not to do that anymore. And I don't think you get that benefit if you're just reading the answer. And the profs are going to emphasize this so many times, and I 100% believe that's true, because the 1 week I didn't do that, that content did not stick in my head, whereas all the other weeks they did. So that's my piece of advice to you. And sometimes when my whole case was wrong, I would literally do it again. I would read the answer, see what was happening, take my notes, whatever it was, and then I would sit back down, take less time this time, because I already kind of knew the answer, and I would actually write that case again. And some people said that that wasn't helpful, but for me that was, because I'm not somebody that learns from writing notes or learns just from reading. I actually have to do it. So that was super helpful to me, especially before the midterm hit. And I think that was a big part of why I was able to do really well on that midterm. And honestly, I just kept that going for the rest of the course, and it honestly was super helpful because I was able to pass successfully, and I did well in that course as well. And then the next course I want to talk about is management accounting. So this is one of the other the management accounting is one of the mandatory courses, but if you're not pursuing your public accounting license, when you write your CPA exam, you can be competent in either financial reporting or management accounting. So if you're not good at financial reporting and you're not an audit, that's okay, because you can be really good at management accounting in that case. And honestly, with management accounting, I don't have that much advice, in the sense that there's no handbook for you to follow and there's no other specific things. The biggest thing is make sure you're actively doing the work. Make sure the week before, if they give you PowerPoints to read those, do the practice questions, go to class, be prepared, ask questions, participate actively, and then just do the cases at the end of the week they also give you, and go to class with that and take it up and participate again. And I'm not gonna lie, I got embarrassed so many times when I tried to participate, because not majority of the time, but sometimes I would get things that were so wrong that even the professor would look at me and be like, did you think that answer through? And sometimes I didn't, and I thought in my head, I was like, yeah, of course this is the right answer, and it wasn't. And I got embarrassed like any normal person would. But I kid you not, that those answers I said, like, I still remember to this moment what I said and why it was wrong, because it's just ingrained in my head. And a lot of friends that I talk to too, they have similar experiences and they participate because they know that it's a great learning experience. And at the end of the day, nobody cares if you get it wrong. Yeah, you're going to be embarrassed probably because you did get it wrong, but nobody cares at the end of the day, as long as you get out a master's successfully. And like I said, I was able to get honor roll while embarrassing myself, and that's okay. And so I feel like, just for all the courses, honestly, not only management accounting, just go to class prepared, listen to what the professors are saying. In undergrad, I was able to get away with not necessarily following the schedule the professors gave me. I could leave things to the last minute and kind of just do it at the end. Whereas now, that isn't as likely to work once you're actually in an environment where things are very fast paced and you need to stay on top of things, or else you genuinely will fall behind and get super stressed. And I think you could put your success in the program at risk as well. So just stay on top of things and don't get behind. And that's way easier said than done, but just try your best to have a strong and strict schedule in place in order to succeed in the first semester. And then the other two courses are audit and tax. And honestly, I think similar stuff goes. For audit, there's also standards to read. So a reason that some people say audit is one of the hardest electives to take, and I'm not gonna lie, it is pretty hard. I don't know if it's the hardest because I can't speak to the other ones because I've never practiced the other ones, but it is difficult. However, one of the best parts of audit is that you have the handbook to rely on also. So the tax or finance or PM, which is performance management, they don't have a handbook to rely on, whereas audit you do. So a lot of people ended up choosing audit, even if they were in the tax profession or finance profession or something else. They still chose the audit because you get the handbook and access to it. So make sure that you're also doing what I said for FR with audit as well. Read the summaries, then go into the standard and read the standards. And if you've done audit before, honestly, you might not even need to read a lot of the standards. Some of the things that I would skim, some of the standards I honestly would skim through because I knew it from when I worked in audit. It was things that were second nature to me and things that were more common sense. And But however, I did find some friends who didn't do audit. They struggled a lot with some of the content that I kind of like knew off the top of my head. And unfortunately, that just is what it is. But luckily, even for those of you that are like that, you have the handbook accessible to you. And the profs, when I was in master's, which was, for those of you watching this, it was in 2023, the audit professors were so helpful, like, and so easy to approach, and they were just kind people. And even if I said something that was like so wrong, none of them would make you feel bad. They would genuinely sit down and explain things to you, which I was so grateful for. And they were just really good professors. So feel free to ask your questions you need to ask, participate actively in all your classes. And honestly, that's probably my biggest takeaway from audit. And once again, there's going to be cases you're going to have to do. So read the summaries, read the handbook, then attack the cases. And that'll be super helpful as well. And then tax, very similar to the audit approach, but there's no handbook. So it's pretty much just cases one after the other. And a lot of technicals that you're going to have to review. Because for tax, a lot of things just go over my head sometimes. And I forget it after undergrad because I'm not a huge fan of tax personally. So tax was definitely a big learning curve. However, the profs, once again, are amazing. And I don't think any course, honestly, there was a prof where I thought they weren't good. The University of Waterloo does an amazing job of getting really qualified and very intelligent and approachable professors to teach the Masters of Accounting. And while some of them can be a little hard on you, it's honestly better than them not caring at all, because it forces you to really study and put your all into something, especially when you pay so much, and especially when you've studied and come such a long way to get into the master's, which is such an accomplishment in itself. It's really important to also put your efforts in, and the professors really help enhance that out of all the students. I believe that, at least. And yeah, I think overall first semester was the most difficult out of all of the semesters. So really put your all into it and study hard. And if I'm being honest, I pretty much studied, as well as my friends. We studied pretty much all day, every day, and maybe had a few hours off on weekends that we would take. And I know some people actually had more manageable schedules, or they didn't do that. However, for me to do well in that program, I genuinely needed to study that much. And I'm sure that there maybe was a more efficient way of doing things. However, that was my way of approaching it, and it worked out for me. However, it was really hard mentally. And I think that because I had a great support system, that changed so much for me, in terms of me being happy and succeeding and able to deal with all of the stresses that came with it. It was really vital for me to have a good support system. So please make sure that you have that as well. And if you don't, you can always reach out to me. We can talk about what's going on in masters. We can talk about if you're stressed or not, and maybe a plan of attack if you feel like something's not going your way or you're stressed. And they're going to bring in a lot of speakers as well, which is really nice because they're just trying to help. And a lot of the speakers are going to tell you to trust the process. And you're going to hear that so much to the point that you don't want to even hear it anymore. But at the end of the day, people are just saying that to help you, and you're going to be stressed throughout the process about whether you're going to even pass the masters or not. And at the end of the day, it truly does work out. Just put in that effort and keep going to those office hours, keep talking to those professors, make sure that they know you. So that way, if you ever do need help and you need to approach somebody and talk to them, they're going to be there and they know you already. And they'll be able to help and create a plan catered to you now that they already know you as well. And I truly think overall first semester was the most difficult, and second semester I honestly don't have much to say about it besides the fact that you're going to be doing your capstone, which is facilitated by the CPA program, and they pretty much give you a case of all students across all students who are writing the CPA exam are going to write this, and you're going to be paired with random people in your program, and it's going to be very difficult, but hopefully honestly, for that, there isn't much advice, because in your course that you're taking, Accounting 610, in second semester, they're going to help guide you through that, help answer any questions you have, and then also solidify a lot of your technicals you learned in all of your first semester. That one course is going to keep giving you cases to solidify your knowledge and how competent you're going to be in something. And it's honestly just, like I said before, practice makes perfect. The 3 courses you take are going to be super easy for the most part, unless you end up choosing harder courses. I chose some really interesting ones that were related to IT and tech because I just thought I never got an opportunity to learn about that in undergrad. So I thought, here's my chance to do that. They weren't too challenging at all, in my opinion. But they were super interesting, and the professors were really good and very passionate about what they were teaching, which also helped a lot too. But if you're also worried about your first semester average, which I know a lot of friends were of mine who were just on the brink of meeting the average that was required for masters, they were able to definitely get that up significantly by the time second semester came around. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And the last piece of advice in terms of the program itself is make sure you participate. There are so many marks that you can get from literally just participating and talking, whether that's asking questions or answering something. There is so much value, not only in the grades that you can get from that, but like I said before, if you say something wrong, you're going to remember and you're going to learn from that. And the professor itself is going to tailor their answer exactly to what you had just said. So when I would say something wrong and I didn't understand something, I got so much more value out of learning about what I did wrong because that professor would specifically explain to the whole class why that answer was wrong, but it was catered to the way that I was thinking, if that makes sense. And so it was just very, very much so a huge value add in my personal opinion. And I think you guys should make sure you focus on participating, as daunting and as scary as it can be. It is so, so worth it. But yeah, I think that was pretty much all my advice I had about the Masters of Accounting. And just in conclusion, whether it's worth it or not. This is a question that gets asked so much. And at the end of the day, I don't know. However, I do know that having that Masters of Accounting, it does give you some more leverage when you're trying to find a job, depending on what that job is in. Obviously, if it's not in accounting or finance or tax, it could not maybe be as beneficial, I'm going to be honest. But I do think that regardless, some higher education can be valuable. And I also think it depends on what you want to do. So I think before going into masters, really come up with a plan of what your future career is going to look like and whether you need a Masters of Accounting or you need a CPA in order to do that specific program. Because I also know a lot of people that didn't do the Masters of Accounting and they're doing amazingly. They're making great salaries. They're not at a disadvantage because they didn't do the Masters of Accounting. And then another thing to remember is that it is only 8 months as well. So in terms of time, it doesn't feel like you miss out on much time. However, it can be more of a mental thing where if you want to go through that mental battle, I guess, of going through masters, because I'm not going to lie, it is a lot and it is very hard. And hopefully you all know when you go through this that it's normal to feel like it is very hard, but you are going to get through that eventually and you're going to come out the other side after working so hard, and you're going to be able to give other people advice similar to how I'm doing this. And if you have any questions for me, please put it down in the comment section. And I always try to answer any questions that are put in the comment sections. I have my information in my YouTube bio, and you can also reach out to me through LinkedIn if you want, because I know a few of you have done that. But just make sure to leave a comment on where you reached out to me so that I know where to actually find you. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck. And if you're going to be doing the Masters of Accounting, you're going to get through it. You're going to do well. You can watch this again if you need to hear some encouraging words, but you're going to be able to get through it. It's going to be a challenging time, and it is going to be very difficult. And to be honest, it honestly felt like one of the most difficult moments of my life when I was going through it in terms of school. And just remember, you're not alone in it. And there's a lot of you that are going to be studying together. There's a lot of you that are going to be going through the same process together, and you're going to be able to get through it. And if you have any more questions for me, remember, leave it in the comments. If you'd like to see a video of advice from somebody who took the finance or performance management course in the first semester, then also let me know, since I took audit and tax, so that's all I can speak on. And let me know if you guys want some more specific questions answered. All right, it was nice talking to you guys, and hopefully you enjoyed this video and it was helpful. And even if it helps one person get through Masters of Accounting successfully at Waterloo, I would be so happy. And if this video does help and you guys are going through it eventually, I would love to hear your feedback on if this helped you or if I was missing something and you wanted more from me. So anyways, have a good day, and you're gonna get through it. And if you, hopefully you do the Masters of Accounting and I'm able to hear your success stories. And if you don't do it, that's also completely okay, because I'm sure whatever you're planning is going to be equally as amazing. All right, bye, have a good day.